Brother, are you all right?
No, I am not all right. I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar. That rhymes.
You're drunk.
Of course I'm drunk.
Well, apparently some people were drunk and are finally getting sober because, holy shit, we have studios and networks actually making good decisions at the moment. Right? There's been some announcements lately. Those announcements all seem to center around underperforming TV shows, both on streaming services and on regular terrestrial TV. They couldn't even last a month. But aside from that, no, I'm not talking about streaming services or networks completely shutting down, although that would be interesting to see. No, I'm talking about shows that have been tanking in viewership that somehow got picked up for second, third, fourth seasons. They're canceled now. They're finishing out the current season that they're airing, and then no more. Now, granted, the one that brought this to my attention initially was, I'm actually kind of sad to see this one go, but not because I watched the show itself. Batwoman. Batwoman is going the way of the dodo. Yes. So one of my favorite series of weekly episodes from Heel versus Babyface is going to be No More. I actually enjoyed watching him lose his mind trying to review some of that stuff. Yes, call me an asshole all you want. I will never deny it. But, go ahead. Oh, he has already gone into that because there's another show that is politically in the same vein. Naomi. Although, I will give Az this bit of credit. He actually ended up having someone else join him in the review of that show. So at least it's shared pain on screen, on camera now for him in that aspect. Actually, I think it might have been her idea for them to review the show together. I can't remember with certainty the actual genesis of that one, but yeah. Misery loves company. Although, how much have either of you two been following any of the other series that have been going on and getting just such wonderfully intellectually honest and consistent praise over the last too fucking long? Hang on. Hang on one second. I see that. There we go. Apparently, OBS decided to screw up and switch an audio setting midstream.
OBS would never do such a thing.
No, never.
Oh, I have a dislike on my newest video.
You do?
Yeah, probably from the same guy who left me a comment.
Oh, well, what was the comment?
All right, well, you saw the thumbnail for my thing, Jared.
Yes, I did.
Don't hold your breath for all these large channels to create a constitutional armed resistance rally rally, they're all too busy selling T-shirts and mugs and marketing as affiliate to other patriotic for-profit brands. America has patriotic posers, not men. Don't hold your breath for the militia. They're too busy making YouTube videos. Lol.
So don't have an active stance and platform to grow the message and share the message that you're trying to share. No. Those people can't be trusted. They're just in it for the show and the money. They don't actually believe what they're putting out.
Yeah, this is the person who made the comment. I would trust them if I knew they weren't, basically just taking everybody else's stuff.
I was... wow. Fascinating.
Yeah. Now maybe the gun stuff is his own. I don't know, but
Yeah, but it's still telling how someone has a stance like that, and yet I'm willing to bet there was very little to nothing backing it up.
pretty much.
Lovely.
But you
Sorry to
really
derail
need
the
something to back
conversation.
up your assertions.
I mean, I'm not saying it was them, but it was definitely them. I can't prove it, but it was them.
It's always them. It's almost like the other crew is around again. God damn it.
Oh. We'll get into something along those lines later, next show.
Yeah.
Because, oh boy, do we have some fun to go over with that one. But let's canceled TV shows 2022. Let's bring back some of... Well, let's see what else has come up on... Oh, see, now here's one at the top of this fucking list that actually surprises me. Apparently, Space Force done after the second season.
Well, I never actually watched it, so I can't say.
I've seen bits and pieces, and it is actually entertaining. It was actually funny. Because they actually got a good part of the absurdity of the military spot on.
They must have been pirating our VTW then.
Or listening in and actually paying attention. But I don't want off. I want up. Just in... Where's another one? Yep, there's Batwoman, which apparently lasted 3 seasons. Shocking. The one that... I'm surprised this one kind of lasted as long as it did. Blackish.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one either.
To me, the premise seemed really odd.
What is it really about, though?
So they were... Let's pull it up and see what they advertised it as. An upper middle class black family and it's basically a sitcom that was a black version of Modern Family.
Yeah.
So in other words, it was just meant for be shit, or meant to be shit from the start.
Well, it was trying to fall in with that niche of Modern Family and go with the, well, you have all the variations of a white family there, Where's the minority representation other than Sophie Vergara's trophy wife? That really was an interesting character choice, but played off of Ed O'Neill actually worked. Because I will give Modern Family this. There were some moments in that show that were just beautiful. Simplistic, yet comedic gold.
I feel like this kind of goes into the whole racism aspect that we've seen again and again in more and more modern shows. Even the things that's supposed to be sci-fi that, well, they aren't really sci-fi anymore now, are they?
Pseudo set pieces for political browbeating and preaching.
More that, which is really fucking sad considering that even saying something like Star Trek, we're supposed to be beyond racism at that point. Yeah, for some fucking reason, everything has to be about race. Everything has to be about skin color. Everything has to be about this and that place in society. Not because you happen to be in that place, but because of your race.
Well, it's really telling when you have a series being written and produced by a bunch of people who have outright ignored what's already been put out canonically. You've had so many, here's a first of this, here's a first of this, and here's a first of this, where pre-2009 Star Trek has at least half a dozen of each of those instances taking place.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, that would actually mean that they have to watch it and understand the show. You know, that's hard.
The understanding part, apparently, because you can... I think it actually is rather telling of the, not just the writing, but also the people who have been enjoying the majority of what's being offered there with that style of writing, because there have been people who tout and claim, oh, I love this. It's so... insert buzzword. And to me, it really does come down to a lowest denominator type of situation. Star Trek before was analytical, was into social commentary, was actually nice, was actually talking about social issues, but framing it in a way that it fit the nature of the show. Whereas now, they don't have that finesse, they don't have that touch, and yet the people who praise it try to laud it as some masterpiece in writing.
Ian, no. Which, let's face it, had you had something like a reboot of, say, Star Trek Voyager today, they would have tried to make Harry Kim just try to get more and more into Asian women, and it would all just be Asian women. But the thing is, Harry Kim is a loser. Through and through. He's just one of the biggest fucking losers around. Because he's, well, to be nice about it, he is overall weak. And I'm not saying, oh yeah, he should just do this and this. No, I mean that in most things that he does, he's not really keen on following the rules in order to actually get to where he wants to be. Just looking at one of the episodes that we had this week, it was the whole thing with him finally finding love on board of another ship filled with xenophobic aliens. And he actually betrayed the point director of all the orders in regards to how to actually act around aliens. He did it because he was in love. Sure, there might have been some more alien hormones and stuff like that too in it, but he at least did something about it. Well, he did it in a completely wrong way. which meant that he got a permanent, whatchamacallit,
reprimand in his record, which honestly, to be reprimanded for that in that situation, given what else happened, I don't see that as I don't see it as a bad thing. What, Icarus?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. But that was one of the things, and that's actually why that episode didn't get cut out of the rotation for Voyager, because it actually showed not just a step, it was a fucking leap of character growth for Harry to behave in the way he did, especially when it's like, no, for too long I've just done and said and followed everything without question. And having that sort of introspection, you don't get that in current Trek. You don't. You don't get that sort of opportunity for actual consequences that either come from or lead to significant character development and growth. Granted, one of the jokes is that Harry Kim is the longest serving ensign to have ever been in Starfleet, because at this point, at the time of that episode, multiple people mentioned it. They've been on that ship for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
In that amount of time, Tom Paris has managed to go from prison releasee to a field commission to demotion to being promoted back to what he was before. Tom Paris gets promoted twice in the time period that Harry Kim got nothing.
Are we talking about Timeless again?
You have that aspect too. But think about that, it really, kind of like with O'Brien must suffer memes, is Harry is the perpetual ensign meme. And we only have the shows to blame for that. But even when they did it, even when they've made character mistakes in that manner, they still had other shit going on. They still had other ways that progression was happening. I mean, the only way to describe Harry Kim up to that point is bumbling fool, try hard in his social life, bit too much of a brown noser, quiet, just go with the flow, do nothing officer on the professional side. Because there was another episode where he actively was like, no, I'm going to make a suggestion in this meeting. No, we're facing this. I think we should do this. I have the idea. I'm going to put it out at the staff meeting. And it caught everyone by surprise because it was him speaking up. It was almost as if even the other characters just saw him as a piece of the set.
Well, Jared, there is a better way to describe him. It's one word. Picard. He is essentially the Picard from that one episode with Q.
Yeah.
He has no drive, no imagination, nothing.
Oh, Tapestry was such a good episode.
Yeah, but it's accurate. Harry Kim is essentially the precursor to the Picard that you have in Tapestry. Just floating along, not making too much noise, just
not standing out,
being there.
Well, and that is actually, I know this bit of criticism is probably better levied on VTW, but it works here too. Every organization that has any sort of hierarchy actually needs those sorts of people. However, that sort of person will never do well in a management role because they don't have what it takes to make the decision and take a risk and have it potentially fail. There is a thing to be said that timidness in a leadership role is a recipe for disaster. Oh yes, Davros, I have met people, that's why I hate most of them.
Just looking at it, it's just kind of like when you're looking at, the things they say about CPR and stuff like that. Just go for it. It's already as bad as it can be. You can't let them die more. You have to do something. You can't just, oh no, but what if? No, that doesn't work. You have to actually do something about it. No matter what you do, you have to do something.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the things that I'm surprised that they rarely mention in civilian CPR classes. If you hear cracking, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Because I remember taking a CPR course in high school because it was a requirement because of the tech classes I was in. And then when I got into the Navy and you have a corpsman being the instructor of it, and they say, no, don't do any of this pussy shit. If you don't hear ribs cracking when you do it, you're not doing it hard enough. Who cares about a few broken ribs as long as they're alive?
Mm-hmm.
And then the CPR courses that I had to take annually for the first few companies I worked with, only one instructor ever mentioned that. And what do you know? The person used to be a corpsman in the Navy.
No, but that really, it's the same thing though when you look at what he's supposed to do. If you're in a position where things might turn to shit, but if you don't do anything, they will turn to shit, well, you kind of have an obligation to do something, regardless of what happens. You can't just say, oh no, but what if? Oh, what if it doesn't work? Oh, what if it doesn't work? Or what if they get hurt? They're fucking dead. They can't get more hurt. You quite literally can't make the situation worse. And the same thing, if you look at something like, say, Picard there, Picard was stagnant. He was lazy. He didn't really want to do anything because, oh yeah, but I'm comfortable here. He was essentially just stuck. He had nothing that he could do. He had nothing that was. He had no way of actually getting out of it. He was so fucking stuck in his own head. And someone like that becoming captain is exactly later on what you get when you have this fucking series Picard. Because look at the actions that he actually does take. Anything that he does is something where he doesn't really have a repercussion towards himself or someone that he actually cares about. He's just floating along.
Well, I've said it before. The show is named after him, but the character is only there as a plot device to be where the action is to justify the name of the show. Because when you actually look at who does the story ultimately revolve around, in season 1, it was Soji. In season 2, it's been frickin' oh god, what's her name? The frickin' psychopath
Girardi?
doctor.
Oh,
Girardi.
Girardi, yeah.
Yeah. The story is, in season 2, yeah, you've had more of Rafi and Seven's interplay, but the actual plot, the actual storyline, is more centered around Girardi and her melding with the Borg Queen. It's not Picard's show. Picard is just there because, well, it was Patrick Stewart's idea to bring the show to life, so we kind of have to have him there. But he is... Change him for any other fucking character or person in that universe, the story still moves along the same fucking way.
You could have Lieutenant Commander Harry Kim doing it. Oh, wait, he'd have to be promoted first.
No, he just gets to stay ensign. He's on a quest. Once he's done, once he marches to save the universe, he gets to go up a grade before they kill him. And then demote his the successor again.
Oh, that was a good one, Jay.
Oh, I have another good one here too. I just debating on when to use it.
Oh, so S2000. Yes, the Borg Queen has actually been very well done in the series, in season 2 of Picard. But what about Picard? What about the namesake of the show?
He's just there. Floating along, doing whatever the fuck.
Yeah. And there's... There's another content creator out there that I'd like to have a conversation with sometime. And he put out a video 2 weeks ago now. Critical Drinker has given up on watching the show. Just outright. Not even to review it. He is not doing any more new Star Trek episode reviews at all. Not even new series reviews. Because they have been that bad and just trending even worse. As a matter of fact, in the Discord server, Lord Burns posted the official release of the visuals of the opening sequence for each episode of Strange New Worlds, which is due to start airing next week.
Where did he post those at? Space Dock or Intelligence?
Intelligence, yeah. And my exact response was, the visuals aren't terrible. The ship is beautifully approximately 25% different, which is a thing, I guess. I mean, for every bit of hope that I had of Star Trek as a franchise being able to course correct to something that is actually watchable and worthy of my time, every single leak and new release of information from Strange New Worlds has killed it. At one point, I was hopeful because Anson Mount's portrayal was actually the highlight of that season of Discovery.
Yeah.
And when they initially said that they were giving him his own spin-off of this immediately before Kirk run of a 5-year mission for the Enterprise, it's like, okay, this could be... This might have potential because you have a good leading actor to play the captain, that as long as they keep going with those good things, that there's potential. And then we started getting more information and more of the casting, and the crew manifest is released. I think the final straw for me was the female descendant of Khan being on the Enterprise. It's like, you have in a 5-year period, you get damn near 100% turnover on a modern U.S. Navy ship, regardless of size, pick any 5-year period, and you will be in the 95+% turnover of every position on that ship.
Mm-hmm.
Why not utilize that sort of turnover rate with the crew of the Enterprise? Why not actually write original new characters? Oh, wait. That's right. That means you would have to be capable of doing that.
Yep.
And also, you can't just go for the whole thing. Oh, but you know about this? You've heard about that? Oh, yeah, but this is related to that. Yes, say what you want about Enterprise. Enterprise brought out a completely new cast of characters. Essentially unknown characters up until that point. And they did it well. I'm sad to see where they're taking this shit. For the simple reason that the way that they're doing this stuff now is just so lacking in everything. There's no imagination. There's no drive. There's no, okay, we want to take a risk, we want to make something new. Everything that comes up now is stuff that we've seen before in one way, shape, or form. And they have a complete universe that they could work with. They have the IP, or bringing access to parts of the IP. They could have made something that was completely different. They could have made something that was completely based on the Romulan society and everything happening there. Or going into Klingon culture. Or just something else completely different. Instead of just, oh yeah, well, people know this, people want this. No, there's some people who know and want this. The people are actually fans of the fucking show, don't you? Or the ones who don't just say, oh yeah, I love the show, and then never watch it again. Those kinds of people, they know what they want. But they don't want these fucking things now. They don't want the eye candy for the sake of eye candy. That leads nowhere.
I just had an idea of a premise for a Star Trek show that could actually be very, very entertaining. But, again, it's predicated on having a competent writer's room.
Are you trying to get us to pitch a show of Lower Decks, but instead of junior officers, it's enlisted?
No. Although that could be interesting, too. No, the idea that I had. Imagine if Shran was writing his memoirs, but had to dictate it to someone. And so we're getting his view and his take on all of the critical events that he was part of, or was what was going on when he had heard about other things happening. And you could even go back and go pre-Federation. You could just examine things from the Andorian side.
Yeah, you could have him talking about when he first met Archer and kind of not necessarily redo the episode, but kind of give his take and then talk about it, but then move on to the Xindi Wars and then on to the Earth Romulan Wars. The time that Archer cut off his antenna. Never been so humiliated by a pink skin before, but he was an honest man. That's exactly how he would say it.
Yeah, and that's where it would be interesting, and if you do it right, you don't even have to worry about one of the actors having aged out. Because you can end up recasting the younger Shran and have the visuals that you get the way he sees himself. So you could get some changes. You could play on that, the psychology aspect there. And then you could do the same thing from the Vulcan side. Get a good Vulcan character that was around and seeing things, and have it be basically an internalized critique and analysis of these cultures and races that they're having to interact with. Not choosing to, they have to interact with them.
Oh, just get Gary Graham to reprise his role as Saval.
That would work. And again,
Because he's aging, so you can. It wouldn't take much more other than the pointy ears and the haircut to sell it.
yeah, and you could have it set up in a similar premise of almost a memoir type.
But why not in that case actually pull on the whole thing with? You remember in Voyager when the Doctor essentially wakes up in the future, and everyone's got it wrong in one way, shape, form.
Living witness. Yeah.
Yes. Having it something similar to that, where okay, they have to actually go into this now. They have to look at this stuff now, or even say there's been a new Hollow thing where this has just come out, and this plays out, but they have to curate it. They have to actually make sure that everything is as accurate as possible, and therefore they have to bring in the proper characters and have the rewrites, have the everything to make it actually be accurate to how they saw Vince.
Yeah, there are so many different ways that they could stay within the universe, within the franchise, and not make the mistakes they're making now.
However, requires that they can't just go with the cheap fucking tropes.
What it is you have people trying to push too much of a message. It's about the message. It's about the critique.
Ooh. I just had an idea. Star Trek Mirrorverse, just right around the same time Discovery is, but you watched the world grow, or the universe expand with Lorca and Kirk and Pike and all of them
as the mirror versions of themselves.
Yeah, like actual Mirrorverse, not this crossover bullshit that we're used to, and that they made season 1 of Discovery about, but like an actual honest to God Mirrorverse.
That could, let's look at the times that we've interacted with the Mirrorverse pre-reboot bullshit. You actually ended up with some good episodes in DS9 and Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I'm willing to bet Scott Bakula had a ton of fun doing it, but his overplay of Archer in the Mirrorverse was a bit much, but I understand.
Overplay? Come on now.
It didn't need to be that much of a divergence in the delivery and mannerisms. Although it does kind of fit the psychology and the psychological profile of the character when you actually look at him, because Archer, while passed over initially in the standard universe that we see Enterprise in, the Mirrorverse, that version of Archer is still trying to actually make his name memorable. So it kind of makes sense why he did what he did and all of that. So, okay. But, that would be an interesting version, Rodent, except, again, we would need a competent writer's room to do it, and we don't have that. But I do agree. Do a Federation Mirrorverse, but how about we not have it be a fascist, totalitarian, xenophobic state?
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm trying to give those Trek fans what they really, really want, because everything nowadays is fascist and xenophobic. Did I sell that good enough?
Except it's not. These people don't know what the terms actually fucking mean and what it would actually be like if they were in that sort of society. I find it absolutely hilarious, the number of people who tout the whole I'm against fascism, I'm against this ideology, and yet their behavior is right in line with the people that they're trying to say they're against.
Let's see. I'll find the video. the one that puts it in its context.
Yeah. So Disney Trek then. No, I didn't say I want to see the franchise implode, because CBS is already doing a wonderful job of that. So Rodent, we're about a month and a half away from the Orville beginning its airing of its latest season. So there's something to look forward to. Oh yes, that one.
Knows Nazis. Doesn't know fascism. Knows fascism. Need I say more?
Yeah. Actually, it would be hilarious seeing something like having something like, say, I mean, the arc inside Star Trek, where they actually explore the proper Nazis, the proper fascists, the proper fucking communists, everything like that. Not just the whole stereotypical, yeah, wir sind Nazis, right? Yeah. Not just that, but actually going into how many of them acted. Not just looking at it like, oh yeah, but it was, Mussolini and he wasn't that good, and, we're not going to talk about that because that's a bit too close to heart. Actually having it so that everything there is portrayed in the way that it's experienced and the way it actually happened. Especially when it came to communism and Nazism.
I got an idea. I know how they can do it. So it's already been mentioned and it's already been hinted at. So we have the temporal Cold War arc of it. But we've seen it from the 21st century, 21st, 22nd century perspective on it. What about going to before the temporal accords, and you follow a historic research team that goes back in time to flesh out Earth's actual history?
Okay.
That would give the avenue for that sort of honest, actual portrayal and documentation of how those situations, not just how they were handled and how they presented themselves, but what also led to them being possible to begin with.
Okay. So what you're saying is go to basically right when we truly understand and are using time travel, I won't say properly, but as the Federation, we're using time travel for what it's meant to do, which is research. But then we also have those bad actors that are on various research teams trying to manipulate it in a way that they shouldn't be able to.
Right.
And the foundation and the creation of the temporal prime directive, the temporal accords and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I like the premise of that.
Because in that
Are we
case,
going to
we
get a
could
lot
actually,
of trials and tribulations episodes then?
You
that's fine though.
You could. And that's the thing is, if you have a creative team like the one that DS9 had, you can get a lot of those uh, intertwining episodes and have it done right and have it actually work and have it be enjoyable and not absolutely fuck everything up.
Are we going to get Crewman Daniels then? I think we kind of need.
We
Well,
we could
we could end
not.
up actually. He was past the prime directive, so it could be like Crewman Daniels' grandfather or great grandfather, maybe.
Well, you could still have him like show up every now and then because you are going to have overlap of that authoritative managing body from further down the timeline, making sure that shit is not being tampered with. So you have a lot of that backward play there too. So you could still end up with Daniels if you really wanted to, but he wouldn't be a necessity. It it would be more like oh god, what was the name of that episode with the relativity where
With Seven.
yeah, where with Braxton,
Yeah.
a future version of Braxton trying to blow up Voyager because he blamed Voyager for the demise of his career. You
Which
can
came from him trying to blow up Voyager.
to begin with. Yeah, he was literally the cause and the end of all of his own troubles.
Yep.
Which that's an interesting storyline to take too. Is looking at how your own decisions ultimately end up being responsible for the position you find yourself in. So, yeah, you could have a lot of really deep psychological analysis of a character and the situation they're in a show that has that sort of framework.
But
And
was it really his fault though?
I would say initially it actually started with Command sending him on that initial mission to stop Voyager in the first place. That then threw them all back to, what was it, 96?
Yeah, 96, 97, something like that.
Yeah, so you have that is the actual first initial domino that then ended up being the cause of the rest of what happened to him. But it was one of those when he was given the situation, he could have analyzed it, and honestly, he could have stopped it simply by not taking the mission and not going and actually pointing out that causality paradox that he would end up being part of. But had he just not gone on that mission,
Yep.
boom, done.
But at the same time, they tried to incarcerate him. They put him in prison for something that he hadn't done yet, which he would do by the case of for due to them putting him in prison.
Well, and that's where you get into some Minority Report type bullshit.
Yeah, which I can't necessarily say that it's actually his fault in that case. He had no power over the circumstances which first led him to prison. He only had one recourse after going to prison though. And that's something they had due to them already fucking him over by trying to stop him for the thing that he first went to prison for.
Yeah, I mean, you could really have a lot of fun with those temporal mechanics and the philosophy that has to then adjust because of it. And I would love to see a proper different take of that. I would enjoy seeing that sort of action, but psychological action. Like, don't just give me a dumb storyline to justify the action that's on screen. No, no, no. Give it weight. Give it reason. Make it actually mean something. And I think that's what they're lacking. What they've been missing for a while is a weight to the story that they're telling. Because when you look at it, what story in any of the recent Star Trek iterations has actually had it? There's only one that comes to mind for me. And it was surprisingly the third installment of the JJ verse. You have to admit, starting with that dour, bleak, I'm
Kirk.
bored of this shit, this isn't what I signed up for, the mundane, daily fucking monotony of this, it's making me mad. From Kirk. That was actually a wonderful premise to start with.
Mm-hmm.
They fucked it up with the villain and everything that happened afterwards, but you had a good premise. You had a great starting point with that.
I will say it was nice to get the Enterprise nostalgia NX style ship back though, and beyond.
Well, and that's where I am. That's actually part of why I tie in the JJ verse as an alternate timeline of the alternate timeline that Star Trek Enterprise is in.
Yeah.
Because the lineage there, it makes so much more sense.
And you know, Icarus has a point. Let's make a show with Wesley Crusher as the captain of a new ship. Everyone will hate watch it.
Will they, though? After everything that's gone on in the Star Trek franchise the last 5 years, will people even hate watch it?
No, they'll probably actually enjoy it because they'll finally realize that after all the crap that we've been dealing with, we would actually appreciate Wesley Crusher at that point. I'm not wrong.
You're in deep shit when a Wesley Crusher is the better alternative.
Yeah. Yeah. But do you see Will Wheaton even being willing to do it? You know what?
What are we talking?
Yeah, well, aside from that, you know what? I think he might actually agree to do it if someone pitched it to him purely as a fuck you to the rest of his former cast and crewmates that want effectively nothing to do with him.
No, let's do a big old. Instead of doing Will Wheaton, no, we got to recast him. Put in, we can put in the guy who plays Barry Allen in the not Ezra, but in the TV show Flash.
No,
Grant Gustin.
No. Let's not ruin his career. If we're gonna recast the role in
Oh, it's got to be somebody older too. So yeah, you don't want to do that.
If you're gonna go that road, what I would find hilarious, imagine Tobey Maguire trying to be a captain version of Wesley. He could visually pull it off.
He could.
And we do have the reappearance, although thankfully he had no lines in the beginning of Nemesis. Wesley was there at the wedding in uniform. So he went and did his thing with the Traveler, but then he still came back and rejoined Starfleet. So having a new series or even maybe even a movie, maybe just a miniseries where Wesley is the lead character in it. Doesn't have to be as the captain, though. You could even have him as a struggling mid-level officer. How
But
would
can't
he
you-
handle that?
Can't you, in that case, get the guy who plays Joffrey in Game of Thrones?
Too young looking still.
No, at that point, we might as well just make the whole show about Harry Kim.
I see no. Actually, that would be fucking hilarious. Harry Kim finally becomes a captain.
No. He
Wait,
he
no.
makes a full lieutenant.
No. With how Garrett Wang looks, bring Garrett Wang back as Harry Kim. Put him maybe not as the commanding officer, but as the first officer, as the XO of a ship. And guess who his trouble project is? Wesley. That could be fun to play with.
Oh, that could be.
Or at least something that's new, different, but still in the same vein. Because right now, how much shows have we had that's followed the same fucking formula of we need to redo everything, but we can't redo it too much. We still need to clean to all these things that you know. Because you know this, don't you? You know this, don't you?
Oh, playing the member berries. That was the entire... That was actually one of my biggest gripes about the first season of Picard. Hey, remember this character? Yeah, they're dead now. Hey, remember this character? Yeah, they're dead now. Hey, remember this character? Yeah, they're totally not acting like you would expect them to, and totally not utilizing information that they should have from prior instances of being on screen. Oh, and they let their kid die. Because think about that. Think about that one for a second. Do you really think Riker and Deanna, knowing that their kid has an issue that could be solved naturally just by going to the homeworld of the Baku, why wouldn't they go there? Why would they forget that that place even exists? Which was actually that going to that planet actually solidified their relationship and ultimately led to their marriage. They were still in this weird and not really kind of phase in First Contact, but Insurrection, when they went to that place and these old feelings came out, and it was even pointed out that they never really went away, you just kind of stopped listening to them. They have their marriage and those kids because of that frickin' planet.
Have you noticed your breasts have been getting firmer?
Not that we care about these sorts of things. I am still never going... You know what? You know what, though? I need to make a phone call between shows. And I'm blaming you, Jay, for this one.
What did I do now?
Oh, you egged on what happened during the review of that movie, and you fucking know it.
I do not recall what you're talking about at all. I would never do such a thing.
I'm surprised no one's gone back and fucking clipped that shit. At least that I'm aware of.
Oh, I have my ways and means, and don't worry, I've got it clipped.
Jesus fucking Christ, of course.
But something too here, which they could actually do. You remember that little show? Its name something stir. Something about some ring or some shit that people go through.
Oh,
That one.
yes.
Where they also have, the robots.
The
But don't know
replicators.
that they're robots to begin with. Why not have some shit like that? You can have a crew of characters. They don't exactly know who they are. They think they know who they are. But there's things that aren't quite right. Make it so that you have a parallel story here, where these are they're trying to deal with what they suspect to be reality, but something that they don't fully recognize. They don't know really what they are, where they are. Things don't line up the way that they expect them to. And
They
then,
realize that something's off and they're trying to figure out what.
yeah, and you don't really even have to have it so it's a reveal in the first episode. You can just keep egging it on. You can leave hints, but no, oh yeah, but look here, he's actually bleeding black. No, just have tiny little hints. Hints that you can tell them apart from the characters that are really supposed to be. And then have it one of those things where the huge plot reveal is that this is actually what they are. This is actually what they are. They're not actually the characters. It explains everything in the behavior, it explains everything in, well, not just how they've been acting, but how people have seen them.
That I that would be interesting to see. But again, we have all these ideas of potential scenarios and situations and certain ways to still stay within the universe and the IP, but do something different. Do something different than what they're trying to do now. I don't think that they have the writing staff that could actually craft that sort of situation. I'll be honest, I'm not even sure if Seth MacFarlane could do something in that vein and make it work. At least long enough to at least be one season long. Maybe a 2 to 5 episode subplot. I could see him being able to do it that long, but not much more. I don't think he would be able to. Mind you, I do like a lot of McFarlane's work, but I also recognize he does have some limitations when it comes to the writing side of things.
Would we have to actually get a proper film director in on it instead in that case?
One who could actually come up with that sort of intricate story, yes.
I'll just bring it up again because, well, it actually fits in. David Lynch.
Lynch may be able to do it, but you know which one actually came to mind initially for me? Someone that we watched a bit of their work more recently? Yes. Scorsese has that acumen. He has that ability to tell that kind of story. Because, look at Shutter Island. We were able to, watching it, there was enough of a question, even at the end of the movie, which version of events was actually the real version. Even when they went back and replayed it and showed it from what they were ultimately saying it was at the end of the movie, you still had reason to doubt. You still had questions. But the reveal in that latter part of in Act 3 of the movie, in the later part of the movie, explained a couple of curious foibles that a couple of the characters did at the beginning of the movie. So You need someone with that sort of skill as a writer to be able to do a storyline in that mold.
That's going to be really fucking hard to find, though.
It is. And there's another part to it, too. You would need a cast that could handle that level of writing. And there aren't many actors out there that, even with a director like Scorsese, can actually portray a character in that situation effectively. So you would need, for lack of a better term, the Holy Trinity to happen, to where you have a fucking top-notch, amazing writing staff, with or without the director being part of that writing staff. You would need the casting to be right, and you would have to be exactly spot on with the casting. And then you would have to make sure that you also have the actual green light and flexibility from the studio to allow it to happen. You cannot have tight reins from the executive side of things for that kind of show, for that kind of story. They need to be as hands-off as possible to let the creative staff do their thing, because it's going to take a little bit for it all to sink in. It's not going to be an immediate payoff. It may not even be an initial success for the first handful of episodes until they really do get into the meat of things. And that's part of the problem. Studios are so focused on the turning a profit side of things that they're sacrificing creative license for the sure bet on the financial side. But without the risk, you're not getting the maximized reward. Because that's the thing, is when you actually go out of the box, when you actually push the limits, when you tell a compelling story, the bigger the risk, the greater the reward ends up being. Because if you take a chance and get it even 50% right, even if you miss the mark, but you still give something different, as long as it is well written and well told, people are going to watch it.
Not good people, but let's not pay too much attention to that, because I'm feeling a little frisky, and clearly so are you.
God damn you, Jay.
That's not even the worst of it, but you know.
Oh, I know, and I know where that's going. All I will say is this. Before you post any of the clip of it, you have to send it to him to get his attention first.
Oh, I can send it to him.
And Rodin brings up a good point. The production crew for The Expanse is gonna be looking for work. So that's one piece of the puzzle that might be solved. But the question is, can we get that high level of writing and casting? That is going to be the hardest part. Because you'll be able to get a good writer. You will be able to find someone to actually tell a good story from the script standpoint. The bigger... It's a slight difference, but the slightly harder bit is going to be the cast. Because you need to have a balance of a couple of names that are known enough to garner attention, but still have the actual acting chops to do the job. And sadly, the ones who can do the job, they're not cheap.
Anybody remember this shot?
I know that's Hoshi, but I'm trying to remember where. Yeah, okay.
I was going to share the whole picture, but I'm like, that might actually get him demonetized for it.
No, as long as they're not showing anything, because it was network TV at the time. They alluded to quite a bit, but didn't actually show it all.
You never know with YouTube's algorithms anymore.
True, fair point on that one. But, you know, that is actually some decent criticism that that series was on the receiving end of. For all the commentary and jokes and memes about Riker and Kirk being horn dogs, the writing staff and the producers of Enterprise were way worse.
Oh, come on now. Now, just because they alluded to, what was it? The Doctor and what was the crewman that was always hanging out in season 1? What was her name?
Yeah, I forgot the character's name, but I know
Cutter.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Crewman Cutler.
And then Trip, of course, getting pregnant and all that.
And then Phlox and well, not just Phlox, but Phlox and one of his wives making Trip uncomfortable and laughing hysterically about it.
Oh yeah.
And then Phlox kind of nudging along what ended up becoming the romance between T'Pol and Trip. And then all of those scenes in the decontamination chamber.
And then on Ryza, Hoshi shacking up with some guy.
Well, that's Ryza. Whatever happens on Ryza stays on Ryza.
Which I find funny is the guy she shacks up with is also one of the villains in the TV show NCIS from the first 2 to 3 season 2 to season 3, I think it was, or season 1 to season 2.
I'd have to go back and look at that one. I don't recall that aspect of it.
Let's see if I can find his face in an episode of NCIS here really quick.
IMDb is a wonderful source for that.
Not always, though. Here we go. I mean, it's not the best picture. Let's see if they got a better one. Oh, but the two pictures are right after each other.
Oh, there you go.
You don't see his face in the Enterprise one, but you see... So here he is in NCIS. He's there. Ari.
Mm-hmm.
Ziva's brother. Or half-brother or something.
Yep.
Here he is talking to Hoshi.
That was him.
Yeah. As soon as I heard his voice when I started watching Enterprise again after watching NCS, I'm like, I know who you are. It's amazing how small a world acting can make things.
Oh, especially when you're looking on the small screen. And
apparently he was also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Sarah Michelle Gellar. He was Dracula.
I never watched enough of that series to know.
I didn't either, and I just clicked through the pictures and saw it, and I was just like, right, okay. Now I know why I didn't watch that show.
But Leon, I know you started to reference it before, and Icarus did ask earlier about it. Do we really want to go into Halo, the series?
No, we're fine. Just fuck that.
Is it that bad?
I have not watched anything past episode. What episode did we watch? Just one? Maybe two? No, it was just one. We only watched the first episode. But I've heard Arch on his Archcast channel and Kyle talk about it. And the other day I was watching the latest one, listening to the latest one as I was driving home from the middle of frickin' nowhere. And apparently the Halo show finally haloed after about 3 or 4 episodes of nothing but talking. And it only haloed for like maybe 20 minutes of the episode.
That sounds like a bad drinking game.
Rodent, you're not wrong. That is another thing, is there was even comment about how there was an entire episode where Master Chief, where John never put on his helmet, but constantly grabbed it just so you knew, yes, he still has it. And still, I think probably the most absurd part about all of this is, in that show, why does the Covenant have a human amongst them?
For torture.
But torturing us as the viewers, or torturing the character?
Oh, yes.
Okay, Nikki, a simple yes or no. Did you play the game and actually enjoy the storyline of the game? Because this is going to be... There's been something that I've been thinking about on my own for a little while now when it comes to media offerings. And I have a suspicion. And, okay, that was not the expected answer. Because up until that answer, every time I've come across someone who has enjoyed the latest renditions of franchises or whatnot being rebooted, reinstituted, or moving from different media, your people who enjoyed the original, vast majority of the time, are the ones who are the most critical of it and don't enjoy it. And it's your people who have limited to no experience with the source material that end up enjoying the shows. Yes, Icarus. Yes. All right. Let's see what that notification was. Don't care about that one. Don't care about that one. Don't care about that one. Oh boy, hang on one second.
What?
I got a text from someone, and it comes with the tagline, "Never give up."
Uh-oh.
Does it mention Grabthar's hammer?
I hear the First Contact intro.
Looking at so many shows now, how many shows can you say have actually had something original that's still full of the line of what they set out to do in the first place?
New and original, I haven't seen in a long time.
No, because looking at, for example, Halo, just because it's a fucking shit show, seeing Halo, what can you say about the show that actually follows the well, the game itself?
Master Chief can kill a grunt by throwing the Magnum pistol at it.
But then again, how much of that is actually Halo as opposed to, oh yeah, this looks cool?
A fair point, but that is something that did carry over from the game to the to the series.
Because even looking at something like The Mandalorian, where they have certain rules set up, like, yeah, he's not going to remove his helmet for good reasons. So, what's he do? He doesn't
Right.
take his helmet off in the first fucking episode. They actually try to follow the formula of, okay, this is a rule. It's going to work this way, at least to a certain extent.
Yeah, that is something with Mandalorian is he not just doesn't take it off. The only time it was taken off, it wasn't by him, and it was quite literally to save his fucking life. And
Well, the
then,
Deacons,
and then, well, I'm talking season 1. Season 1, his helmet came off when the assassin bot turned nurse bot took it off with actually the logical justification, I am not living, ergo no living person has seen you without your helmet on. So kind of skirts that rule just a little bit, but even then Mando was still saying no, don't take it off, but you will die. And so you had that aspect to it. But then the admonishment he got for being honest and pointing it out later when challenged and questioned, has your helmet ever been removed? Have you ever allowed it to be removed? He could have lied, but he didn't. So, you can have instances of following your own rules like that, and it works. And it actually does well. And that's part of the problem with Boba Fett. The Book of Fett severely missed the mark, and part of it was the big part of it is just how they handled the character of Boba Fett. And then we get Halo. How many times in the game, during any of the cutscenes, did you see Master Chief without his helmet being on in place?
Once in the first game, after beating it. Rather, you don't really see his head, you just see him taking his helmet off. Which, funny thing, if you actually do it so you can see what happens else in the cutscene, he takes his helmet off to reveal another helmet underneath.
Nice. Yeah, that's the game devs just fucking with you. Shocking. But it's still that whole thing. Even with later iterations of the game, Master Chief is such a badass, partly because of his adherence to his training and everything, and just the way he is. You should be worried about any series being made by people who wear it as a badge of honor that they have not interacted in any significant manner with the source material of the intellectual property they are now in charge of making an entertainment show about.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why I've stayed away from Halo. Is if you can't be bothered to know the source material itself, at the very least, to stop you from making contradictions in continuity with it, then you have no business writing for it. You have no business taking on this project. It would be like me trying to write a show or a movie about, fashion model, the fashion industry, and never actually talking to anybody or going to a fashion show myself and doing that type of stuff. Just being like, oh, this is what they show me on TV, or this is what I've seen from screenshots of video games and whatnot about it.
I think the only video game I can actually think of with a fashion show is Hitman, which I feel like it might be flawed.
Yeah, maybe just slightly.
How many times have you seen shows right now, or just any kind of entertainment media, where they've been faithful to any of the source when it comes to mainstream shit?
I can't think of any that have actually been faithful to the source material. Even in the majority. I mean, everything that's come out has had deviations from the source material in some way, shape, or form. The bigger question is which ones have stayed true to the nature and core of the source material despite the changes that they've done.
Yeah, that's not really a long list, though.
Right now, there's only one that's coming to mind for me.
Still Foundation?
Yeah. Yes, it had deviations from the source material, but it got the core nature of the story right. You know what? If you want to go back to the early 2000s and just go with the last 20 years, the Lord of the Rings movies by Peter Jackson are on that list. Yes, there were deviations, but it still got the core story right.
Yeah.
The Expanse, I am unfamiliar with the source material, so I cannot judge that one.
Well, we have Snowpiercer too, but same thing there. Then you have Game of Thrones, which... yeah.
The Game of Thrones, again, deviated from the source material where they had to, and was good until they caught up with the books. Once they caught up with what George R.R. Martin has actually released, the show started going downhill. Weiss and Benioff cannot write on their own. Even when they know what the ultimate goal is, they cannot write on their own. They can adapt shit. They can take something that's already written and convert it to something more palatable on film. They have that ability, but they cannot tell a story on their own.
Yeah, I've never actually watched Game of Thrones.
The first
But
five
I've never read the book. I've never read a book either, so.
The first 5 seasons were actually good. The first 5 seasons are actually entertaining because it's still a fantasy world, but it is as brutal as you would expect the real medieval times to have been. Which was part of the allure. It was darker, it was grimmer, it was more literally cutthroat than most of your fantasy offerings. which is what made the source material stand out from its contemporaries. And then only HBO and Showtime were the only avenues that had the means and the capability to take that source material and turn it into something on film. Those were the only places you could have that sort of grotesque violence and nudity on the regular. And it worked because it was part of what Martin had in his stories. The visuals needed to go along to match the brutality of the political game that is at the core of the story. But once the TV show caught up with the books for the main storyline, started going downhill from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Rodent, that is a good comparison. Think Braveheart, but with magic sprinkled in. So, but yeah,
So if we're talking about things that from the original source material put onto either television or movie, then you were talking about Lord of the Rings. Harry Potter is right in that realm too. There are things that were cut because just had to be cut. And there were things, though, that they left out that they should have probably kept in.
I don't really see the cut things in Harry Potter as being the issue, though. The issue I have with Harry Potter is the changing characters.
Well, part of it is like the house elf creature. If you've read all 7 books, you know creature is actually a integral part in book 7. In the way Harry is able to ultimately get his hands on things and figure out where the locket that they were looking for at the end of book 6 was. And then he helps out in the Battle of Hogwarts at the end. If they can't make it...
Oh,
go ahead.
But those are things I can deal with for the simple reason that if you really want to incorporate house elves, you need a lot more scenes actually showing how things work at Hogwarts.
Well, yeah, and that stems from the fact that they cut out an entire scene in the books in book 4, where they're dealing with Dobby the house elf and Winky, because they didn't introduce Winky in the beginning of the movie. So therefore, they cut the scene, which makes sense. If you're not going to include the scene from the beginning of the movie, you wouldn't want to incorporate the scene in there. But again, when they made the 4th movie, they hadn't released the 7th book yet, so they didn't know how these little nuances
was going to be.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is there's nuance that if you're going to incorporate a book or book series into film of any sort, whether actual movie theater or television, you should make sure that the lore is completed, or at least that part of the lore is completed. And in response to Icarus, they can't even make The Last of Us games good. Like the first one, okay, yeah, that's solid. Then there's the whole snafu with the second game, and we don't need to talk about that right now.
Yeah, I am blissfully unaware of that one, and I plan to stay so.
Enjoy it while you can.
Looking at something like Harry Potter there, my issue isn't the whole cutting things out, because they cut a lot from Lord of the Rings too, even though it was actually done and over with at that point. My issue with it is how they changed all the characters. They changed them from being quite human characters, with human flaws, human characteristics, instead being, well, let's take Hermione. Hermione is the best ever at everything that she tries to do, except for when she isn't. She's a comic book character instead now.
Oh yeah.
Ron is a bumbling fucking buffoon. He's useless. He has no agency that's actually worth talking about. He's petty, he's aggressive, he's petulant. He's just not a good person overall. Harry, oh yeah, but Harry is so good and so courageous and everything like that. Instead of actually being, a bit of a mean-spirited little shit, but just so happens to have a scar on his forehead. All of these fucking things, they changed so much of it in the books, or from the books in the movies. And it means that Hermione comes across as being just the good little know-it-all, but she has no negative repercussions from it. Everyone else comes across as just being comical. They come across as being some kind of weird satire or parody version of themselves.
Yeah, I can't really speak much towards the Potter franchise. Never read one of the books, and have only seen a couple of the movies. Only a couple, not seen the entire thing.
But put it like this: Ron and Hermione are supposed to be the high intelligence versus the high wisdom character. Ron isn't necessarily, the smartest of the bunch, or he isn't the most intelligent of the bunch, or he's got smarts. He is really fucking smart when it comes to the shit that he actually knows. Hermione is supposed to be highly intelligent, but not necessarily
Book
the
smart,
most-
not necessarily street smart.
yeah.
Okay.
But in the movies, instead, they made her both street smart and book smart, while they made Ron into just some fucking moron.
Is the comedic fodder.
Essentially, yeah. Which means that Ron isn't really a good character. Not in the movie. He's just a mean-spirited piece of shit. Which, if we want to go into the whole racism thing, look what they've been doing to the gingers again.
I keep reminding people it's not that gingers have no soul. Gingers have lots of souls. Just look at all the freckles.
Only a ginger can call another ginger a ginger.
I'm close enough to being one.
Everything there. And that's something where the more I see what happened to the Harry Potter franchise and what happened afterwards, I'm just saddened by how they made things, how they decided to work it out rather than actually follow the books.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand needing to cut some corners, but then when it went on the whole fucking feminization brigade, or whatever you want to call it, when what's the face? J.K. Rowling did everything because this character is now gay, and this character is this, and this character is that. And everything had to just be, it had to turn, or had to be turned into a, I'd say, radical, well, not actually even radical feminist, feminazi perspective, in the sense that everything had to be, it had to be tilted towards the woman in show. That is Hermione. She is the best character of them all. She is so fucking smart. She can do this, she can do that. There is nothing that she can't do.
Yeah, it sounds like a Mary Sue, and we know how that is played out for other franchises.
Yeah. Which, if you want a female character, at least write it as, well, a human, if it is a human. Don't try to make it into something where this is just some weird kind of robot who can do no wrong, who's the most virtuous of them all.
Icarus, that is a good comparison. Might want to zoom in a bit, Jay.
Oh, I'll just read it. Undoomed. The hashtag Star Trek Picard writers are so stupid that the only way they could figure out how to comment on today's social issues was to have the show literally go back in time to the current year. No allegories, no cleverness. Not for the lulls like The Voyage Home, just club you over the head with it. A lot of people ask this, why do you watch it when it's so bad? So let me answer. I only watch it to be able to understand the jokes when Red Letter Media bring out their videos about it. Red Letter Media videos about Star Trek Picard, greater than Star Trek Picard, 100, 1,000 times over. Then Scribelight down here with Red Letter Media for the win.
I would have to agree. It's one of those, in order to understand a thing, you must watch that thing. And unfortunately, some of us are done fucking watching because we know what's going to happen. It's not.
Yeah, you're going to get frisky with Furball.
Yeah, that's another just topic for a different time.
Yeah.
But
the comparison with Samantha Carter, though. Samantha Carter is really intelligent. She has some smarts, but she's mainly intelligent.
And even then, she still had to learn and grow.
Yeah, but she had a capacity to do so because she was actually intelligent. That's really what, that's one of those things that made her character as attractive as it was. Not just the whole physically attractive thing, because, well, that's a whole other story. But it's a character that shows, that shows a capacity to grow, that shows that it isn't just window dressing the same way that so many other characters are now.
This is where I think a lot of the retread series that have been going on lately, just stop. Just stop. Give it a rest. Go try something else. Go try to actually write and make something that is your own. Don't just rip off and bastardize another person's work. Show that you actually have some capability to do it on your own. Then maybe I'll consider seeing what you have to offer in other franchise. Oh, fucking hell.
And then there's that.
That one's is being done by Taika Waititi as well, right?
I believe. Let me check. I wanted to show this one though.
Because yeah, there's been some effects on that picture.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, there is actually someone who specializes in biology.
Watani.
Yeah. And here's the thing. He did good with Ragnarok. But from what's been leaked out, I do not have high hopes for this one. Actually, there is one movie that Taika Waititi has done that I actually want to see. Jojo Rabbit. I have not seen that yet.
I've heard nothing but good things about that.
I've heard that it's a fucked up comedy, which is my kind of comedy.
Exactly.
Oh shit! That was one. Yeah, I was actually talking with the wife the other day. I was trying to remember what movie it was that I had mentioned to her that she doesn't remember watching. And I was trying to remember what other movie it was that she doesn't remember watching, but I know she has because we watched it together. And that was Grand Budapest Hotel, which if you haven't seen that movie, go watch it. It's absurd yet great.
So many times now, though, when you see absurd, people are trying to make it into just meme material.
This could be seen as meme material, but it was done in such a way that it was actually enjoyable for those people with a functioning brain.
I mean, well, when you have something like, I just need to bring up a game for this because it is a way better analogy or comparison in this case. You have Borderlands 1 as opposed to Borderlands 2. Borderlands 1 was it was a dismal game. Not as in the game was bad, but it was really fucking oppressing. It was just really depressing all over. And then you had Borderlands 2. And Borderlands 2 tried to cram as many fucking memes, bite-sized, just little references, everything like that into the game as they possibly could. And it completely broke the immersion of the first game. The first game was dystopian. However, the characters in it were, well, more than slightly crazy, and it showed.
Be right back.
In the second one, the characters were caricatures. They were just trying to get as many fucking sound bites and shit like that in as possible. It was just like slamming a bunch of fucking memes together.
Yeah, so that's where Grand Budapest Hotel is. The word absurd is fitting for describing it, but not in that sense, not in that sort of modality. It was definitely in that over the top in some visuals, but also in how the dialogue was. It was really very well written and even better in the product that was put to film. Granted, it does star one of the more versatile actors that is currently active, Ray Fiennes. For a while, I would hear the name, but not really recognize just how diverse of characters that he has played and done well. But looking back on material now and being of a more mature stature in watching his work over the last 10 years, dude is fucking phenomenal to watch. He's one of those actors that I will give something borderline a chance if he's one of the main characters in it. If he's one of the leads in the movie, I will err on watching it as opposed to not watching it.
If who's the lead in what movie?
Ray Fiennes. Have you seen Kingsman?
The newest prequel one?
Yes.
I have not.
You should. It actually was a lot
I've been
better than
wanting
I
to.
expected.
If I remember correctly, I think it's on Netflix.
I don't know. I watched it when I was on a plane going across country in the last couple months. Not sure which flight it was, but it was on one of them.
No, it's apparently on Hulu right now.
But with that, we've gone over quite the, you know what? I hate myself for saying this because of what I've been, where I was last weekend at one point and what I was putting together earlier today. But yes, this show has been quite the smorgasbord of topics. And I expect another one on the next one. Next time we go live, because who knows what other fuckery is going to be about for us to talk about. But in about a half hour, we're going to have a different flavor of fuckery. Is that how it came to you?
Yes, it is.
Did you lose anything from it?
No, because everything's contained in a box inside the bag.
Thankfully. Well, at least you can be thankful for that. But yes, as you can see, it is.
Actually, I lost a
Oh
straw.
god! Oh god! What'd you find, Leon?
I'm just thinking, they sliced the bag, but at least the box wasn't intact. Phrasing.
God damn it.
Yep, get ready for that to be the tamest of the humor for the rest of the night. With that, we will see you all back on air in just over a half hour, and yeah, it's that time. We got to get the rest of the crazies on here because we're gonna have some fun. So we will see you all.
Well-endowed lady. I'd like to get my hands on her ample nacelles, if you'll pardon the engineering parlance.
You might want to get those painted goggles that you thought were going to be UV but ended up blocking everything. Just a bit of forewarning because, yeah, stuff and things are going on.
Don't forget your size strike approved oven mitt too.
Yes, that might actually, I got mine right there. So we will see what else happens for the rest of the night. Catch you all soon.